I just thought sequentially that might be best. So
Okay.
I would like to speak on behalf of the
Sure.
again, but perhaps you can go first.
Sure. Where is Mr. Troutman?
Like that.
Tuesday night last week, the committee was given a bunch of material, and of course we heard a lot. We do plan on contacting either side to clarify some things and to more clearly understand where it is. But our function is as a mediation committee. We're not taking sides. We plan on presenting an opinion as we see it. We're not here to adjudicate the dispute with the alcohol. We don't feel that we have a part in that. But we will offer an opinion about the Speedwell's ability to operate in the atmosphere they're in, and of course all the while respecting your legal authority as elected officials and your concerns. So we do plan on issuing an opinion prior to your or in preparation for your March supervisors meeting here.
Okay.
I guess with that being said, is there an expectation that a decision will be made on the pending ordinance, or will you be deferring until you get a report from the committee? For clarification purposes, please.
Could ask the solicitor that.
The March meeting, the March meeting will fall within 60 days of publication of the notice. So we won't have to republicize or reissue the notice if you decide to table consideration until the March meeting. I don't see any problem with doing that.
Just so we're clear, and I guess I'll start off by saying, I don't want to make this a presentation about Speedwell specifically, but volunteerism as a whole in this day and age is something that's hard to find. As I go through some of my comments and my opinions, I think it's commendable for what the Speedwell does. These individuals do not get paid. These individuals do this out of the goodness of their heart, and they do it for the community that is the individuals that sit within this room. So I guess I'll just start off by kind of laying the landscape with that. That being said, I was contacted right around the turn of the new year by the Speedwell in an effort to clean up their affairs, I guess I will say it as bluntly as I can. I was contacted by the incoming executive board, which is now the current executive board, with an acknowledgement that perhaps Speedwell wasn't doing all the things that they could have been doing as clean as they could have, or as well organized as they could have over the years. And they came to me voluntarily, ironically, seeking advice and seeking counsel to do the right thing. In that regard, I was charged with the task, or asked very bluntly before the township was making any decisions to take some efforts to do that reorganization, if you will, and that's exactly what we've done in, quite frankly, a very short period of time. So what we've done and what we presented to the committee last week or 2 weeks ago is everything's pending at this point until we know where we're headed with all of this. But what the Speedwell has done is they've completely drafted or redrafted a set of bylaws that is rather comprehensive in nature. It is intended to address not only the organization as a functioning body, but also as a foundation to build on some other things that we've created that I'll talk about here in a second. Those bylaws have not been technically adopted yet, again, because we're kind of awaiting some guidance from you individuals. But the bylaws, and again, I'd be happy to share as many copies as you would like, intends to set up a hierarchy that has an executive body, but it also has a board of directors that has a combination of executive body and some membership. So there's a little bit of checks and balances within the group or within the club. And what that does as an entity, it allows for, I hate the terminology, but the good old boy network not to occur or not to continue to roll over. In other words, by having a split division of some membership and some executive bodies and having some regular turnover in that vote, there's no one or two individuals that can kind of run the nest and run that for a long period of time. So that's one of the main things that it does. And that tone and that tenor flows throughout the bylaws so that there's a number of checks and balances throughout the process and throughout the bylaws and the functions. What we've done in addition to the bylaws is we prepared what we call a policies and procedures manual, which directly addresses some of the ongoing concerns that have transpired over the years. The policy and procedures manual is something that the Speedwell has not had before. Again, it is rather comprehensive. It's multi-pages long. It addresses a number of different topics. It not only just addresses day-to-day activities, but it addresses internet use activity, which I know is a hot button topic with this township historically. So there's an acceptable use internet policy that's within there. There's also what's called a progressive discipline policy, which is, again, gets at the core of what we're talking about here, so that if there is a member that is unruly or disorderly or violates any of the house rules, there's a plan now. There's actually a structure, an organized structure that has to be followed in order to discipline that individual or group of individuals. And again, what was lacking before is that there was no such structure. As I understood it coming into this from the back end, is that essentially if there was somebody that was unruly or not following procedure or protocol, someone within the club made a decision on how that was handled. And depending on who that someone was, it kind of dictated how the outcome was. And that frankly wasn't fair, wasn't appropriate. And I'm going to even go a step further and maybe even cause some of the problems that have been going on over the years. So now what we have is remember I talked about the foundation being the bylaws that cross-references the policies and procedures, and again, yet another sets of checks and balances. So in other words, if there is an unruly individual, the executive board or the board of directors has a procedure or a protocol that they must follow in order to discipline that individual, and if they don't do that, then they can be held accountable to the next level. And that's what this is all about. It's all about transparency, so that there's no hiding behind the bushes here in this process. It's all about accountability, so that those who are going to be decision makers within the group, whether they're friends of somebody that has become unruly or not, have a duty within the club to discipline or to do whatever it is that progressive discipline calls for. And that progressive discipline at the moment, and again, it's subject to interpretation or adjustment, is a three-step progressive discipline where there's a verbal warning, a written warning, and a written reprimand, followed by a termination. But those can be accelerated based upon the severity of a particular event. So in other words, if there's a very serious event, you can bypass step one, get to step two, so forth and so on. So the second document, or the second agenda item that we have, is a policies and procedures manual that again is rather comprehensive and is intentionally drafted to coincide with the bylaws that are being drafted. And then the third thing we have is just what we call a company or house rules plan, which is a kind of abbreviated version of the policies and procedures. But this is something that can be much more easily circulated to membership. It can be posted throughout the club, in addition to the other items as well. But just a reminder, if you will, of the highlighted items that all members of the company are going to be expected to follow. Again, hitting some of those buzz items, some of those day-to-day things that people may tend to slip up on. So the combination of these three documents, what we've drafted thus far, is intentionally set up so that there is a checks and balances throughout the process and accountability throughout the process, and a kind of a welcoming opportunity for the leadership to not only be working with the membership, but also that they can supervise and discipline should something like that ever come up, in addition to the day-to-day operations that may just come with a regular.
Excuse me, Mr. Bechtel, you indicated you'd have a role in this going forward, but
Yep, I'm going to get to that next. Yeah, thank you. So in addition to the paperwork that we have at this point, so the other things that we had proposed during our committee meeting is, I call them wild card items, but they're again subject to interpretation, is one thing we had suggested is allowing, for transparency purposes, that there be a regular report from Speedwell to you individuals on a regular basis. In other words, not just hey, we had 5 fire calls this month, or something that's very generic. It is somebody from the company showing up face-to-face, much like we're doing right now, and say, hey, we had 5 fire calls this month, but we also did this. We had a disciplinary issue with this individual, without naming names or breaching privacy. But again, more of an accountability face-to-face report that can come back to you and say, and allow you to ask questions as well. It's more of a dialogue than it is a presentation, but gives you more detail, whether that's monthly, whether that's quarterly, whether that's semi-annually. You can dictate or control how that is, or maybe that tails off or picks up depending on the season.
Excuse me. They give a report to them every month.
Mm-hmm.
You're acting like we don't give a report.
No, he's saying it's going on beyond the fire calls.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's above and beyond the fire call. It's more of a day-to-day operational update, I guess I would call it. We can call it whatever we want, but it's more than just a number of fire calls. It is fire calls plus personal information, organizational activities, updates on trainings, foundations, things of that nature that may be happening. Opportunity if there's any complaints from the public to report back, and they can take it back to their leadership. So that was one thing that we had proposed, again, as an optional item. The second thing that the Speedwell is willing to consider and to show their dedication to this process is they have welcomed the opportunity to use me or my office to be, I'll say, official solicitor in the capacity of, because we're starting off on this venture of reorganizing, there might be some slip-ups, there might be some confusion along the way as to how to handle a meeting, how to structure a particular disciplinary issue, how to manage on a day-to-day or a month-to-month presentation. So what they're willing to do is they're willing to commit to either, again, me or my office or whoever being an official solicitor that would be sitting in on meetings to help them through this process, so that if there's a question for some individuals who may not have been in a leadership capacity before in a company like this, there's some direct legal counsel and, again, some accountability that they're asking for from a legal perspective. Again, so there's an individual like myself would sit in monthly or semi-monthly, whatever it may be, to commit to that process. The other thing, that's the second item. The third wild card item was, we haven't really figured this out, but the opportunity to allow the board of directors to be comprised of not only Speedwell members, but also community members at large. So again, so for this transparency idea, that if we set up a board of directors, I'm just going to say, for example, there's 6 board of directors, 3 of those board of directors would be somebody that would be a community member at large, not a member of the fire company, not a member of West Lebanon Township, but just a concerned or a interested individual of West Lebanon Township. That individual could come and say, hey, I don't have a voting right in this whole process, I don't have any disciplinary role in this whole process, but as a community member, I'm concerned that X, Y, and Z issue might be happening, and I'm bringing it to your attention because I'm an interested community member. And whether we can find individuals to do that, I don't know, but the concept being that there be this interplay between the company and the township, but not really one dictating the other, more of a direct community involvement. They're willing to open their doors and say, hey, come on into our meeting. We're not doing nothing to hide here. We're willing to work with you. And the tone of everything that I'm saying right now, and the tone of our committee meeting was, this is not an adversarial event. They don't want to be against the township. They don't want the township to be against them. I think the word that kept coming up was, they want this to be a collaborative effort. They want your input. They value your input. But at the same time, they want to be a fire company. That's what they want to do. They want to do it the right way, and they're willing to show a commitment to that by going through all these steps that we're talking about right now. And there's some other smaller details that we can get into, and I don't want to belabor the conversation for the moment. Those have been presented to the committee. I hope Mr. Troutman and his crew have accepted those, and we spent an hour and some change going through all those items, so we spent a lot of time talking about those details. So that's just a summary of kind of where we're at right now in a less than 45-day period of time that we don't put all this together. We're willing to commit to more of a long-term approach. If there's some feedback that's something that we have not addressed or that we think we need to address more specifically, we're willing to do so.
I was wondering if I could do anything to make you stop talking.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You're a very, very charming
I
man.
apologize. Thank you.
I was given a copy of the bylaws and the whole thing. And I read it cover to cover. My husband was a volunteer firefighter for many years, and I truly admire anyone who wants to be a volunteer firefighter. I have a question on page 11, section 4. And that is, I think you need to address a definition of the word impaired. We all know when somebody's intoxicated, there are 3 cheeks to the wind. But do we know when somebody is impaired in the sense where their judgment might be impaired, their ability to drive a pumper through an icy, crowded street, and their ability to handle the kinds of equipment that you have to do when you're fighting a fire? Are you planning to self-police, or are you planning to kind of make it a point to say to somebody, hey, buddy, you might want to sit out this call?
Right.
That would just be my suggestion, is you in some way address that issue of what is it like to be impaired.
Sure, and I'll briefly respond verbally, but I appreciate your comment. It's a difficult issue to address in the sense that, you know, how do you define it? Are we getting breathalyzers out? Are we putting
No.
a breathalyzer before?
I'm not talking about the criminal definition of
No, I
driving
understand
while
that, but
impaired.
again, I think the intention of the two steps, the policy and procedures manual that we generated, the intention of this is to give it to each individual member, have them sign off on it, have them acknowledge it, so there's more of a direct appreciation of, here's my duties, here's my rules, here's my responsibility.
Didn't they do that?
I only have received a few, not everybody did the ones that we made up for me.
Oh, okay.
I just have something to say to that. Through this whole thing, I would like to think there is no doubt as a fire company, we have grown together in the time that this has happened, this incident has happened. And I would like to think, knowing everyone as well and knowing how hard we've worked to accomplish all that we have done, that we will not ever have this situation again. And I would like to think, I know, that we will hold each other accountable. That may not be what the answer you're looking for, but I can guarantee you we've worked entirely too hard and come too far to go back to where we were.
That's it, exactly.
Exactly. Hold each other accountable. That's
Wait for you to
wonderful.
be quiet.
You go, Harry.
To be accountable, that's the key. Be accountable for your actions. Firefighters that I talk to from different areas, if I had a beer, I don't get on that truck. I don't even get on the back of it unless you drive it.
Yep.
So it's gonna have to be internal for you folks to, if I had a couple, you ain't going, period. That's what didn't happen before.
I can guarantee you that will happen now.
That-
We've worked too hard,
The
Harry.
board has to have control, your board.
In our
And-
new set of bylaws, there is a zero tolerance be in place for her.
Your new
There will
board,
be zero tolerance.
With you saying zero tolerance, that would meet what we have in our employee policy.
Correct.
yes.
But that's not what he just said and what's written in these bylaws. Zero tolerance is zero tolerance.
Right, absolutely.
So
It
that,
is.
I would refine,
Yeah, it's in our code of conduct.
point that up a little bit.
That's why I said we welcome any feedback like that.
And once again, I think we will work too hard. This has been a long 45 days, well, longer than that now.
Actually, on page 7, it does say that some major offenses may be so serious in nature that a member will be discharged for the first offense.
Yes.
That's zero tolerance.
That is
Yes,
correct.
And that's what I was alluding to earlier when I talked about the three-step progressive discipline. Now that we have a hierarchy structure, there are individuals that can say, hey, that is a zero tolerance type of offense, and there's a methodology in place now that we can effectively discipline that individual, whereas before, no such item exists. So again, everything that is presented here with refinements is intended to get to that final stage of we have a person that's accountable, a person that can make decisions, and that person hopefully will make decisions. If that person does it, the bylaws also hold that person accountable up the chain of command. So
It has
that's,
to be in place.
yeah, and we admit that. I don't think there's anybody here that's saying not, no to that.
and if you look at the company rules, number 5, there is zero tolerance for any member who responds to any fire call or engages in any business of the department while under the influence of alcohol, illegal drugs, or controlled substance, or is intoxicated or impaired due to the use of other substances. We put other substances because there is so much out there. It's impossible to cover everything. So other substances, I'd like to think, covers everything. And then it sees, please refer to the department's policy and procedure manual for further information. It's not tolerated. This is never happening again to this company. It's not. And that is one of the reasons we've obtained Mr. Bechtel, to be sure that we are doing it the right way. And that's what we want.
And is that the feeling of everybody out there?
Yes.
Yes.
We need to know.
This is our company. This is our township. We've worked for it. We're here for you. That's what we want to do.
This wasn't a witch hunt, believe me. And we know that it was 45 days long. It seemed like 45 months.
Firefighter.
Something I haven't carried in my pocket in 6 years. It has me that upset, what's going on, that I carry the heart pills. by the turnout, you guys need to take care of business. It's not our job,
I agree.
and you gotta be accountable.
I agree. And once again, that is why we obtained this respectful office.
Again, if we'd have got, and we got notice that there was a problem, and had we as commissioners not done anything about it, and something happened, injury, death, accident, who would be responsible? It would come back on us.
And Harry, I completely agree. And while we all sit here and are antsy over these days, and like I said, living with a firefighter, it's twice as bad. This break that we've had, I think every one of us can attest that we've grown closer. We've done so much more that needed to be done and should have been done years ago.
This break is a wake-up call.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, now I'll be quiet.
I really hope that this is a collaborative effort. I see so many faces that I know from church and from just neighbors. I love you all. And I'm glad that nobody is throwing tomatoes at us, because we just did what we felt we had to do. And now it's up to you. It's on
And
you.
we're trying to be right also. And that's why if you have any suggestions, we are more than open to them.
Well, it looks like your board, or the people that are gonna be in charge, have the support that they need.
Yes,
You know, because the ones that aren't here don't care.
yes,
These are the ones that care.
yes. Agreed.
I am really happy about one thing. I was upset because I have seen pictures of accident scenes posted
Yes.
on Facebook, and that is unacceptable.
They don't belong there.
So I'm really happy that you've come up with a lot of these policies.
Thank you.
With the media thing, the only thing, if ever we plan on putting on there, would be like some training,
Or a fundraiser.
fundraisers.
Right.
But there
Nothing.
won't be no fire calls, no meeting type stuff, no, stick it like just mainly to like fundraisers.
This is a new board, and we're gonna make this work. If you allow us to, we're gonna make this work. And it's gonna be better than it ever been.
I'd just like to say that we have taken this, we have labored over this. It's like Harry's saying, we did not take it lightly, and we talked about this, we had a meeting about it, and discussed it amongst each other, because we weren't sure which direction to go, because we didn't want to dismantle a fire company. And I put down some thoughts, which I shared with everyone, and I'd like to just share this because it will communicate to you as well our intentions. It says, to our understanding that the bylaws, and we all read these, the bylaws, the policy of procedure manual, and company rules have been organized to be established as a result of last month's decision to reorganize and monitor Speedwell Engine and Hose 39. The purpose of the Commissioner's actions upon Speedwell Engine and Hose 39 this past month was not to dismantle or dismiss this department, but was to establish them to be a more upstanding, self-disciplined entity that is working in agreement with the Commissioners of West Lebanon and a position upheld by fire and emergency teams around the country. It is our common goal to provide security and safety measures that are supported by individuals that not only give time and effort, but strive to be self-disciplined in the call of their duties and responsibilities. Every position of service to the public demands a degree of self-sacrifice and commitment that goes beyond personal interests and agendas. And this commitment is for the benefit and the welfare of the residents of the township, of every established body of citizens. Therefore, it behooves us, the Commissioners of West Lebanon and the members of Speedwell, to set aside past grievances and third-party involvement that is not associated with the purpose of this endeavor, so that hostilities will be minimized and the focus will be on establishing the common goals of the so-mentioned things. A mutual respect must be recognized and supported for those individuals that are committed to the resolve of past actions and the reconstruction of Speedwell Engine and Hose 39. Any individual who does not submit to seek the same common goal has no business being involved. As commissioners of this township, we are committed to the safety and welfare of the residents of this township and are responsible to provide direction in the affairs of this township, and we aim to do so to the best of our abilities. The commissioners are in agreement that information that may hinder or provoke a working relationship with the members of Speedwell for the common goal be set aside at this time. We must recognize that the commissioners have a responsibility and a duty to hold the department accountable to the policies and practices that they have established and agreed to. All of us who serve the public interest are individuals who have seen the need for someone to rise to the challenge of serving his neighbor with varying degrees of sacrifice. And for those who choose the area of emergency and rescue, the sacrifice is unequal. Yet the level of commitment in serving one another in any area cannot be compromised. In light of those thoughts, the dismissal of any individual from a position of service is not just the loss of that person or that person's need and commitment, but is a loss to every one of us. Every one of us has the same ability to lose focus on the purpose for which they chose to serve. And it is our duty and obligation as members and fellow servants to support and hold each other accountable, which we're talking about, in order to rise to that challenge of commitment. Anyone who is so moved to align themselves in the arena of public service of any position, having any other motives and agendas, is in need of evaluating their position and their purpose and bring it in proper alignment or step out of that position. As commissioners of this township, we are willing to assist you and have taken this course of action for the benefit of all of us. We have stated our sincere intentions. The steps that follow will be determined by the mutual respect and compliance with these decisions and the measures of accountability and the individuals involved that are bringing this to pass. If the members of Speedwell refuse to participate or the level of commitment to follow through in the reorganization of the department standards and the policy are minimized, then the commissioners will be forced to take further action to resolve the conflict of interest. I think we're on the same page.
I agree.
We don't take this lightly, and we don't want to dismantle. We'd sooner have a rebuilding of this whole thing. And I'm encouraged to see and hear what I'm seeing. And I think we're going in the right direction.
I agree. Thank you.
Anybody else? Sir.
John Durganis, Durganis, 1845 Church Street. I've only lived in the township since 1971 when I came back from Vietnam. And like the young lady said, it's been a long 45 days. And not hearing the sound of the siren is deafening. Because when you would hear it, you knew somebody was coming. Not to take anything away from Ebenezer or any other fire company, but I think once we can get back to we can hear that siren and give you that peace of mind, and everybody on the right sheet of music, will be a better township.
Thanks. Anybody else?
My name is Jackie Gross, 2236 Lane Street. I've lived in West Lebanon quite a number of years. I was affiliated with the fire company for a long time. I was very proud of that fact. My husband was affiliated and very proud of the fact. To see them close, I think would break a lot of hearts and a lot of spirits. And in order to get volunteers, you have to have a spirit inside of you that this is what I want to do. I want to help these people. And if you're drunk, you can't do that. So I agree with the drinking. If they have breathalyzers, more power to them. They can put them on cars, put them on fire engines. Do something. If
You're
that's
not
what
the
it-
first one that has said that, Jackie. We're okay with that.
I have nothing against Ebenezer or Pleasant Hill, but if I'm in a burning house at 23rd and Lehman, and I'm waiting for a fire engine to come help me, and there's one 2 blocks away, or there's one 2 miles away. Believe me, I will depend on the one 2 blocks away. And I know the people that are trying to reorganize, and I feel that they're doing it from their heart. And I'm backing them 100%. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes.
Brian Crick. I've only lived here about 8 or 9 years, not as long as you.
Brian,
But,
would you give your address to the secretary?
2311 Lehman Street. I mean, like we talked about, they're all volunteer firefighters. People make mistakes. You know, we have mistakes in business, mistakes in police forces. People make mistakes, things happen. You know, you just need to grow and make it better. I just remember back when we had the flooding here in West Lebanon, how helpful this entire fire company was. Going around at every single house, pumping their basements out. Mine twice. You know, people make mistakes, but people can do better.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Morning, if you got something to say, you need to say it now, not on the street.
I'll say something. Bill Hauser Jr., 2429 Guilford Street. Time to move forward and get along with each other and support each other. I mean, I was out of this township for the years I served, but Harry, you know, I'm behind the fire company. Chicken, you know.
That it?
Nicole 9 Litz, 2221 Lehman Street. I was the house on fire, and they came. And it was their faces that comforted me. And they went beyond to make my kids have a Christmas. They helped us get started again, and I don't know what I would have done without them. So it really saddens me that they even consider some people who are so great to close them.
We don't wanna close them, we just wanna bring it from one.
Just like the gentleman said, people make mistakes. The mistake has been made. Learn from it.
That's right, but we grow together and we make it better.
That's all we ask. That's all we ask.
Anybody else? Sir.
I don't know if I can speak up before I'm not a township member. I'm a member of Speedwell. My name is Barry here, it's 1 Wilkes Road, Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. I work over at Lad Hanford. And me and Sarge both together for well over 25 years. And every year, hey, we need drivers at the Speedwell. We need drivers during the day. So finally, he talked me into it. And there's probably about maybe 10 or 12 people here in the township that know me by my face or whatever. But I always used to call this is a town within a city, because I always thought of it as Lebanon City. But what I have learned over the 3 years of being at the firehouse is, this is a heck of a town, this little area here, West Lebanon Township. And I'm very proud to serve your township. And Sarge was right, we needed drivers, but when that siren goes off, sir, as you said, we're there, we respond. We always have a crew. That's what it's all about. We're there for you, and we want to stay there for you. And I think I speak for almost everybody in my crew here when I say that. Thank you.
And running. How can we make changes? How can you see we're willing to work and do what you're asking if you don't let us run? You've got township residents saying they're more comfortable with us. So why would you continue to keep us out of service? How can we develop a relationship if you don't let us?
We have to wait for that committee.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait for that committee legally, otherwise we gotta do the ordinance.
Did anyone ask North Lebanon Township if they're North Lebanon Township, not Ebenezer, if they're allowed to cover us this long?
There was a meeting sometime today that their attorney forgot to call the township on.
So we're not covered?
Mr. Miller, can you speak on behalf of that?
I was told that there was to be a meeting this afternoon, this afternoon at 2 o'clock, and there wasn't a meeting. It fell apart because parties were not notified of the meeting.
We might want to clarify that, because that's pretty important if we have no fire company that's willing to come in here and we're ready to pass an ordinance.
when,
to take us
wait,
on
excuse me,
full-time.
what are you saying, no fire company's coming in here, Michelle? Rephrase what you just said.
Thank you.
It's under
Mutual aid, but I'm talking
Right.
about taking us on as a township. I'm talking as a resident.
We
Michelle's
didn't
has some-
legally take them on yet.
That's what I'm asking you, John.
So currently, right now, they're just providing us mutual aid while we're out of service, and once we're out of
Correct.
service, we have our township back ourselves.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Understood?
We good? Okay.